We've got camp battles galore today. The Chiefs wide receiver position is the most contested position battle in the training camp for the Kansas City Chiefs. We're here to talk about it today. I am your host, Gary McKenzie. Welcome to the couch, doing a new location. And in today's video, I really want to talk about the camp battle that's warming up between the wide receivers for the Kansas City Chiefs. I've got my notes here. And so let's get started. I'm Gary McKenzie. This is Gridiron Lines. And we're here with RGR Football. If you're new here, welcome aboard. We cover Chiefs content. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you want to. But let's get to the fat here of this video. I want to talk about all the different Chiefs wide receivers and make some predictions in terms of who is going to make this roster, who's going to get cut, who goes to the practice squad. So starting with the easiest wide receivers first, I have the locks. These are the players who I believe are locks to make the roster. That would be Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, and Justin Watson. I believe these four receivers are locks to make the Chiefs' 53-man roster. We've got preseason football coming up. Just this weekend, on the 10th, we'll see the Chiefs take on the Jacksonville Jaguars in their first preseason matchup. Andy Reid has said he will play all of the position groups, all of the levels of depth on the roster, one quarter. So first string will get one quarter, second string will get one quarter, third string will get one quarter, fourth string will get one quarter. But if you ask me, I think Andy Reid might be fibbing a little bit there because there's no way Patrick Mahomes plays more than one drive if it's a successful drive for the Chiefs. I can't see Travis Kelce getting a huge workload in this game. So the Chiefs are going to protect their assets the best they can while trying to get their starting caliber players ready for the regular season. But I just do not see Patrick Mahomes going to the end of the first quarter in this game. But speaking of the preseason games, we have all these Chiefs wide receivers who are fighting for a roster spot, in my opinion. You've got Skyy Moore, Kadarius Toney, Justyn Ross, Mecole Hardman, Niko Remigio, Montreal Washington, Cornell Powell, and Phillip Brooks all vying for a wide receiver roster spot for this team, and there's too many cooks in this kitchen. Some of these players are not going to make this roster, and I want to talk about some things I'm going to be looking for in the preseason game versus the Jaguars to kind of get an idea of where these wide receivers may stand. So the first thing I want to talk about is you watch a preseason game, and it seems like the Chiefs are trying to feed one player a lot. And you might immediately think, okay, this is a good sign for this player. So say if Skyy Moore gets 10 targets in this preseason game, you might think, hey, this is a lock. You know, the Chiefs for sure are wanting to keep Skyy Moore on the roster because look how much they're using him. I would argue that the opposite is actually true, and that the more targets a player gets, especially early on in the game, that's more of an indication that they're on a bubble. So if you see Skyy Moore, Kadarius Toney get a ton of looks in this game, especially early on, I would say it might not be a good sign for them. Now, if it's more organic and, you know, kind of later in the game with lower strings, at that point in time, I think, you know, all caution goes to the wind. There's no real observation that's taking place. The guys are just trying to play and make plays, and quarterbacks are just trying to execute the offense as best they can. So early on, I think that if one of the wide receivers gets a ton of looks, it's because they're on the bubble, not because they really want to showcase this player. No, it's because they want to see if they're capable of doing what they want them to do. So that's one caveat I want to have about camp. But I kind of want, or about the regular season, or about the preseason game. That's one caveat about the preseason game. You really don't know, just because a guy's getting targets, what that means. And I would lean towards them having that player being on the bubble more so than that being a player that they want to keep. But looking down the Chiefs roster, I want to try to make my predictions on who's going to be cut, who's not going to be cut. And right off the top, I think Cornell Powell and Phillip Brooks will not make the 53-man roster. Those are the two easiest ones. Now, we've already got four locks: Rice, Brown, Worthy, and Watson. That means there's two or three guys out of Skyy Moore, Kadarius Toney, Justyn Ross, Mecole Hardman, Niko Rio, and Montreal Washington that are going to make this 53-man roster. Andy Reid usually keeps six wide receivers. I think this year he might keep seven. And I'll start with Montreal Washington. I'll kind of work my way backwards up my list here that I have. But Montreal Washington did not have any statistics for the Chiefs last season. And his camp is going very similar to last year. He's had some cases and some chances to showcase his speed, his quickness, and he's had some flashes here or there. And my question for Montreal Washington is, can he be a special teams contributor? I feel that if he can be a special teams contributor, he has a much better chance to make the 53-man roster. And he could do that by either returning kicks, returning punts, being a gunner, doing all these different things on special teams. But right now, my prediction for Montreal Washington, I believe he will be put onto the practice squad at the end of the year, or at the end of the preseason. Moving up on my list to Niko Remigio. Did not have any statistics last year. He was loud in the OTAs. You heard all these things about Niko Remigio in the OTAs, and then camp comes along, and he's been quiet in camp. So he's had loud OTAs and a quiet camp. They've been working him at kick returner, and this is kind of where I have the discussion of, do I think the Chiefs keep 7 wide receivers? And if they do I think that Niko Remigio is going to be one of those 7? And because he's been returning kicks and shown some flashes here and there, I have Niko Remigio making the 53-man roster as a special teams player for the Chiefs. So I think the Chiefs are going to keep 7 wide receivers this year, and I think Niko Remigio is the last man in. I had him split 50-50 between practice squad and the 53-man roster, but I think he barely makes it in. Moving up the list to Mecole Hardman. So Mecole Hardman had 14 receptions for 118 yards with the Chiefs last year, and he's having a Mecole Hardman okay camp. It's not like he's done anything extraordinary. At this point in time, you know who Mecole Hardman is. You know what he brings to the table. He has a lot of experience in this offense with Andy Reid, so there's a lot of value in that. And because of that experience, I actually have Mecole Hardman making the 53-man roster over some other players that the Chiefs might have. So moving up again, Justyn Ross. So Justyn Ross had 6 receptions for 53 yards last year. And as far as Chiefs wide receivers go, if you go and look at what's out there on the internet, Justyn Ross is actually having one of the better camps out of all the wide receivers that are on the bubble for the Chiefs. He's been a good red zone target for Carson Wentz. He's caught a lot of balls downfield. He had an awesome back shoulder fade catch the other day versus Joshua Williams. And then immediately after that play, you let Joshua Williams know about it, and Joshua Williams did not like that, so you had some shoving going on after that. But Justyn Ross, I believe, brings physical attributes to this Chiefs offense at the wide receiver position that are really lacking. So you look at players like Skyy Moore, Kadarius Toney, Mecole Hardman, Niko Remigio, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy. All these guys are kind of your smaller built wide receivers. The Chiefs really only have one bigger body receiver that is a lock to make the roster, and that's Rashee Rice. So Justyn Ross, I feel, has an angle to make this roster, especially with the looming Rice suspension coming. And Justyn Ross, has this ability to high point the ball. He can catch the ball in the red zone. He's a red zone threat. So I think that Justyn Ross makes the 53-man roster. And this is mainly because he's having a really good camp. And he's just has these physical traits that no one else has on the Chiefs wide receiver core. And so that sets him above and beyond. And I think that those traits, as well as his good camp, that lands him on the 53 for the Chiefs. Moving on to Kadarius Toney. So Kadarius Toney is an interesting situation for the Chiefs because they have some investment in him. They traded a 3rd-round pick to get Kadarius Toney, and if you ask me, that pick paid itself off because he had a huge play in the Super Bowl versus the Eagles on a punt return. Last year he had 27 receptions for 169 yards. A catch percentage that actually wasn't too bad. It was 71.1% catch percentage. So other than that game versus the Lions, where he pretty much single-handedly lost the game through his own ineptitude versus the Lions, he caught the ball when it was thrown to him. However, his camp this year has been not good. It's been bad. He's been often injured. He's been taking a long time to get over some nagging injuries. And so my prediction for Kadarius Toney to start the year is that he's going to have some type of injury designation where he doesn't count towards the 53-man roster, but the Chiefs are able to keep him. So I think that he's not going to be on the 53-man roster. He's going to have some type of injury designation, and that's going to be the direction the Chiefs go with Toney. And we'll see what happens with him because, man, he's got all the talent in the world, but he just can't seem to put it together. Lastly, we have Skyy Moore. 21 receptions, 244 yards last year. And this is where I really want to hammer Skyy Moore. He had a 55% catch percentage last year. That's not good enough. And in camp this year, he has not had a good camp. Just a couple practices ago, he bobbled a pass from Mahomes. The ball deflected off his hands, and it was intercepted by a cornerback for the Chiefs. I can't remember which one it was, but I think it was Trent McDuffie. And so these catch percentage problems have continued to be a problem for Moore. That 55% catch percentage is just not good enough. If you look at Rashee Rice, his catch percentage last year was 77.5%. Now, that was one of the best catch percentages in the NFL, and don't get me started on how epic that was that a rookie did that, because you usually don't see rookies have a catch percentage over 70%. But Rashee Rice had a catch percentage of 77.5%, which is just insane. And you can see he's got that skill. He's got solid hands. When he catches the ball, he looks it into his hands, tucks it into his body. All the form is great for Rashee Rice catching the ball. But Skyy Moore, for whatever reason, has not been catching the ball. He has a small catch radius, short arms. And for all these reasons, I think Skyy Moore gets cut. I don't think Skyy Moore makes the 53-man roster for the Chiefs, and the Chiefs part their ways and move on. So that means I'm looking at the following wide receivers rounding out the 7 wide receivers that the Chiefs are going to keep going into the 2024 season. They're going to keep Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Justin Watson, Justyn Ross, Mecole Hardman, and then Niko Remigio, who's going to be more of a special teams player. They will put Toney on the some type of injury designation. He'll still be a Chief, but he won't count towards the 53. And then Skyy Moore, Cornell Powell, and Phillip Brooks will get cut. Montreal Washington, he's going to the practice squad. I like what Montreal Washington can do for the Chiefs, particularly in special teams. I like his speed and quickness. I think he's going to have another really good preseason. I think he's going to have a good game versus the Jaguars. He just kind of has that dog in him a little bit, and I like having him on the practice squad because he can come up in a pinch and, return kicks or punts and do that in a fairly proficient way. So those are my locks and my cuts for the Chiefs. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you think Skyy Moore is on the Chiefs roster in 2024? Do you think he deserves to be on the roster? Where do you think I went wrong with my predictions on the wide receiver position for the Chiefs heading into camp? Once again, this is the most competitive wide receiver group that I've ever seen in Chiefs camp in the Mahomes era. So this wide receiver group is much improved from last year, and we should see that improvement day one in the regular season. I'm excited to see what Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy can do. 2 really good additions to this group that Mahomes is going to love. But let me know in the comments where I went wrong. Do you think that, Niko Remigio is going to make the 53? Do you think he's going to get cut? Let me know down in the comments. And as always, tell you again, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get to 30,000 subscribers, so we appreciate all of you for joining us. Once again, this is Gary, host of Gridiron Lines. Hope you like the new setup. I might keep recording here. I kind of like sitting on the couch doing this video. It's more comfortable than my computer desk. But this is Gary signing out. Y'all take care, and go Chiefs. Enjoy the first preseason game. Football is right around the corner.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.